Well, joining me is Gillian Franklin, the CEO and founder of the Heat Group, the cosmetics distributor. Welcome to Business Spectator, Gillian.
Thank you.
Now, the interesting thing about your business, apart from the fact that it's been so successful over such a long period of time, is that you managed after 10 years or so to change your investors and the people who are supporting you. Tell us a bit about how that came about and why you did that.
Well, I'll start with the why first because it leads into the how. So I think one of the great advantages I had when I decided to start my own business was I'd been in corporate life for 20 years and I'd also had the opportunity to sit on a number of boards. So what I really valued was the benefits of networking, because I learnt that through the corporate life and through the board life.
Which corporation were you with?
I was originally started with Revlon in the 1970s in South Africa and then joined them again here. And then my last role was 7 years running Graham Smorgan's company, which was called Creative Brands. So I'd been a managing director for sort of 17 odd years and then decided to start my own business. So I recognised that I needed to have some equity because all the stats show you that 80% of small businesses fail, and it's not that they're not profitable, but they run out of cash. And I thought I really needed to have some solid funding behind me. But I also wanted a board who could give me great support, teach me things that I didn't know, and perhaps open some doors for me. So at the initial stages, I thought I'll go out and target people. And because of my networking and previous connections, I was able to attract really blue chip investors in Jeff Morgan and Andrew Banks from Morgan & Banks, and Carol Schwartz, who most people would know from the Beeson family, and Alan Cheng, who's one of the largest cosmetic manufacturers in Asia. So that was a great start to a company that was just, twinkle in my eye.
And that was 2000, and the interesting thing is that in 2001, almost immediately, you got the contract to distribute Max Factor.
That's right.
In Australia, which in a sense made you an instant sort of success and made the business work.
Yes. Well, I remember we were incorporated in May 2000, and in June 2000 I took a phone call from someone to say Procter & Gamble were changing their business model in Australia, which is what they'd done globally, where they were moving their cosmetic business from a subsidiary to a distributor model. And they said that they would like me to pitch for the business. And I thought, wow, this is incredible. I literally did not have an office. I had nothing. And so I said, of course we will. So I developed up a proposal and went to see them in Sydney and presented my company. And it was quite laughable because P&G, they're the largest consumer company in the world with about $75 billion US. And they're quite like a big bureaucratic organisation too. And they gave me these forms to fill out as part of the process of pitching for it, and it was, where's your office? Don't have one. What computer system do you use? Don't have one. And I went on, I thought, this is not going to get me very far. It was a real challenge because I had to convince P&G to make a decision that was outside of their comfort zone and to take a huge risk, and they're quite risk averse as an organisation.
But you did. You convinced them.
I did. And so we were awarded the distribution rights for both Max Factor and CoverGirl. And it's paid handsomely for them because those two brands, when we took them on, were doing 26 million wholesale dollars. So I went from a startup to a $26 million company overnight.
Yes.
And had to quickly put together an infrastructure and get on with the job. Now, both Max Factor and CoverGirl were declining in the market in terms of market share and performance. And I remember my first meeting with Kmart, they said, oh, Gillian, I'm really sorry to tell you, we just made a decision. We cut Max Factor space in half last week because we didn't know you were going to be taking it on. So, I started with my hands tied behind my back and said, we got to get these brands back on track. Now, if we had done nothing else except stop the decline and achieve growth at the same rate as our competitors, so hold our share, we would have done last year in wholesale sales just under 40 million for P&G, and we did over 60. So we say we are sort of 20 million value-added business. So it's been a very successful journey for both of us. But coming back to your original question then, after 10 years, we had been paying very, very high dividends every single year, a more than 30% fully franked dividend on average. And I felt like we needed to have a big shake-up, and I just thought, you know, we need the next big step now. It's not just about dividends, it's about building something that's going to have higher equity in the next 5 to 10 years, and that meant...
But your existing shareholders wouldn't have minded if you'd said to them, we need to put the money back in the business now, no more dividends for a while. They would have been okay with that.
I think that after 10 years, there had been, I think, a comfort zone, and I wanted to shake that comfort zone a bit and say, I think we need to take a few more risks and challenge the business more, and also for me to be challenged a bit more, because I love to learn, I love to grow. And so I just made a decision. You know, from my learnings on other boards, it's not healthy to have the same board. And I was very privileged because most professional investors won't stay for 10 years. So it was a great, I think, credit to me in the business that they did.
So how did you break it to them? Did you have a series of one-on-ones, or did you gather them all together and say, you're all sacked, or what?
Well, it wasn't about sacking.
No, I'm exaggerating.
But it was initially perceived like that, I think. I asked to have a meeting and went to see them and said that...
One-on-one?
No,
altogether.
And I just said, look, I've given this a lot of consideration. I think we've always talked about we should do what's best for the business. We've got roughly 100 employees and we've got great brands. And I said, I think it's time for me to bring in some new insights, different skill sets, different contribution, different appetite for risk and new challenges. And so I'd like you to leave.
Well, and how did they take it?
Well, you can appreciate, I mean, there was some interesting discussions for about half an hour, but I was very steadfast in my determination. And so we did discuss options, and I went to them and I said, there are a series of options here. You can leave or I can leave. And I think that it won't work if I leave, considering, you know, the business is driven by me. And
so you put it on the line to that extent?
I did, yeah, because I had to make them realise I was very serious about this. This was not a negotiation, this was a decision. Carol in particular was fantastic, and she said, I really understand where you're coming from, and it's been a great 10 years, and you know, we'll manage this exit very professionally. And she said, we've had a really strong relationship, and it meant a lot to her. So
at that point, had you begun to line up the next group of shareholders?
No, because I needed to have absolute confidence. I mean, I was determined to do it, but I needed to have confidence that I was going to be able to complete that. So once I had done that, and it was very traumatic for me. I mean, it took a week of torment and knots in my stomach to set that meeting up, as you would appreciate, because it was a tough call.
Yeah,
but
definitely was.
It was a very tough call, and you know, it was them and me, and I went in there. But I was extremely focused and rehearsed, and I knew what I wanted to say, and I got the job done. So then I thought, right, now who do I want? Who am I going to now go and get? And one of the things that I felt we had lost on the board was diverse thinking. I'd noticed over the last 3 or 4 years that there was a lot of unanimous decisions all the time, and I didn't think that was healthy. And so I wanted diversity, and I then put together a list of what kind of skills did I want. And to me, ethics and values and principles are so important, and you know, it's almost made me come unstuck a few times in my career where I've really stuck to my guns on things. So I wanted people who I could respect, who I could like, and who could bring great skills and take the business now to a new level. And so I created my list and went out and started talking to people and said, I'd like you to consider investing in my company.
And you did all this personally yourself? You didn't delegate to somebody to do it on your behalf?
No, I think I'm my best salesperson. I know my business intimately, and I could present a business plan to someone and talk about the whole thing, you know, without having to refer to any notes. And so I started on that journey. So
did you get some knockbacks?
Not knockbacks in that people were not interested, but more about the timing of it or whether they had the cash available. So I was, I think, very honoured that the people who did say, I can't do it, but I can't do it now. And I didn't talk to many people at all. I was very selective about who I spoke to. So I spoke to 5 people looking for 3 and got 3. And the two who said no, both of them said, I would love to be able to do it because it's clearly a fantastic business. It's not only a successful business, it's a fun business. You know, how many times do you go to a board or have an investment that you can actually really enjoy the whole transaction and the people and the excitement and the glamour and the fun of it. So it's a great company, and we do some really good things. So I was able to, so I started, Michael Story, who joined me, has come from the pharmaceutical background, so I wanted someone who understood pharmacy and small business, because we have a good business in pharmacy and we're moving into health stores, and that's very different to Coles. Then I also needed somebody who understood the big guys, and so Ashley Waugh, who came from National Foods, great track record in not only became the largest supplier to Coles and Woolworths, which is very powerful, but he had been through an acquisition journey. I think there were 170 million when he started and over 2 billion when he left, so he understood that. And I knew Ashley because we were both Wesley School parents for many years, and I'd got to know him in a social context, and I thought I could really work with him. And then, of course, the big one for me was to approach Hugh Morgan and ask him if he would...
And why did you choose Hugh?
Well, if you were to say, you know, who are the 5 or 10 most highly regarded business people in Australia, he would definitely be on that list. And I thought that he would bring real financial strategic thinking. He also would bring good corporate governance. So each of them I looked, you know, for something quite different. And yeah, I think Hugh is just such a smart person, and he's been around the block a lot, and he can really help me. And Lindsay Cattermole was the other one, who of course is an amazing entrepreneur, and she brings a different kind of thinking too. So now I have this very powerful, very exciting new board and shareholders, and now we're ready for the next journey.
And you used the opportunity to increase your own shareholding in the business,
I did, yes.
Didn't you? From what to what?
Yeah, I was, you're testing my memory now, I was about 15 and a half, and then I went to 20, and then I went to 40, I'm now at 46.
46, so, and obviously by far the largest shareholder now.
Yes.
And the others have, what, 10 or so
10
percent?
or so, yeah, roughly.
Between them?
Yeah, it's mixed. And 2 of my senior executives are also shareholders, and that was important to me. And previously they never had that opportunity, but I wanted to achieve that. So my CFO and my sales and marketing director are both shareholders.
And you talked about the need or the desire at that point to take it to a new level, to refresh the company and to, you know, to in a sense change it. What have you changed it to? What's the extra risk that you've taken on that you've talked about?
Well, I think to be fair to my previous board, we all agreed in the strategy, which was we needed to change the mix of our portfolio because we were extremely reliant on Procter & Gamble. They were a very big part of our business, and we wanted to continue to grow them, but grow the balance of our portfolio at a much faster rate. And that had to come through acquisitions. And so that was the strategic plan we'd signed off on, but we actually weren't doing it. And I said, we need to do it. We need to get out there and start.
To buy your own brands.
Buy own brands, yeah. So we did that. So we identified a few, and we've completed one a week ago. We have another 2 that we're currently working on. One small one, one large one. And we're also looking at other brands that we can bring in from a distribution perspective.
The one you completed a week ago was Billy Goat Soap.
Goat Soap, yeah.
And have you gone to soap because you don't want to compete with the cosmetics that you're distributing on behalf of Procter & Gamble?
Yeah. Not necessarily. I mean, we don't want to compete directly with our own brands, but, you know, women are very fickle. We all buy 5 or 6 brands at any time. So you can have a mixed portfolio. But we don't want to have exactly the same core strategic target. So, no, if there are other cosmetic brands that fit within our portfolio, we would most certainly consider them. And in fact, one that we're looking at now is a cosmetic brand. But Billy Goat Soap was a great opportunity to get into skincare. And we've done, I think, a very robust checklist of what is the core criteria for making a decision. we have to get costs down. So, you know, in any business, especially a distribution business, your margins are very small. Your working capital is low because you don't have the minimums for manufacturing, but your margin's small. So the way you can improve your bottom line is you have to reduce that cost of serve. So it's about technology. It's about getting more for your buck out of your retailers. So we want to stay in the same channels, become much more important and influential with our retail buyers. So with our, you know, if I look at our big retailers, Target, we have 5 brands there now. Most of our competitors, we're going to have a meeting with them, we'd be talking about 1 or 2, but we've got 5. So it changes the level of your importance to the retailer.
You have more clout with them.
Yeah.
And do you notice that you're able to decide where on the shelves, which shelf you get and how much shelf space?
I think what it does is it gives you the opportunity to have higher level discussions, whereas if you're just a one brand, you're dealing with the buyer all the time. But what this has done for us is we can go all the way through and we can talk more strategically with the business managers and the managing directors about, you know, what the role we have to play in developing their personal care business. And so I think you have hopefully more influence and you can discuss things more strategically.
How have you found dealing with the retailers, or how have you found the retailers changing over recent years?
Well, there's been a big shift in our industry to grocery, which people would never ever have considered years ago. Grocery grew by 34% in cosmetics in the last 12 months because I think it's reflecting more about what's happening with women. So, you know, women are time poor, they want to shop in a place that is very convenient to them after hours. They're looking for something that represents value, no fuss. So grocery retailers have taken advantage of that. More generally, we are noticing they're very concerned about margins. They want much more aggressive promotions. A lot of pressure on us as supplier for more trading terms. And we've just been very focused on no. We dig our heels in, you know. We get an ambit claim, we need 3% more margin and you have to do it by this date, otherwise we'll consider what we do with your brand. And we say, no, we won't. Let's start this conversation again. Why should we give you anything? What are you going to give us? And then the whole battle starts. So definitely more demanding and more challenging.
Some people aren't. Obviously, some suppliers are not as tough as you and do have to in fact give in, don't they?
And that makes it very difficult for us, especially some of our competitors who have very deep pockets who roll over, I think, far too easily. Because then when you go and have a discussion with them and they say, oh, but L'Oreal have paid, or oh, but so-and-so have paid, I say, well, that's great, you're very fortunate. I'm not. Let's start again. And so we have to have the conversation. But it does make it more difficult for us.
We'll have to leave it there. But it's been great talking to you, Gillian. Thanks very much.